Hey, you guys are in for a treat today. I am joined by Rachel Pesso for the Mind Rise podcast. Make sure that you subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and check us out on Google Play as well. We're going to be jamming today about what it means to be creating a brand that is 100% you. Rachel is a visual storyteller. She is a brand designer. She is someone who has a creative vision and holds space for you to be 100% you as you put your unique voice in the world. Her clients have included Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black, Ariel Lauren, Jada Selner, and Lori Harder, to name a few. She has over 10 years experience in the industry, and she just has a super unique perspective on using your soul in order to express yourself in the world. So you definitely want to check that out. And again, if you are listening to us right now, you also might want to pop over to YouTube because we're going to be doing a little bit of screen share on there so you can check out some of the new concept called a soul theme. So definitely want to go hop over to YouTube and check it out. But join us for today as we talk about our brand and what it means to be 100% you. All right, guys, so I'm setting the stage for you. I'm in Sonoma in the fall of 2013, and I'd been a psychotherapist forever and ever. And I make this decision on retreat that I'm going to start my own business. So in making this decision, I had no business making this decision because I had no pathway or tools with which to do this, but I make this decision boldly. And then I basically raise my hand and I say to this group of 50 empowered, amazing women on retreat, I say, I need a website designer. Rachel Pesso, who we're going to be jamming with today, raises her hand and says, I will help you. Let's talk. And that was almost 9 years ago. Yeah. Right?
Crazy.
So, on the podcast, we talk often, Rach, about you just didn't wake up and have a successful, website development and brand development company in which you are, having clients like Jada Selner, Lori Harder, Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black, like Ariel Lauren. Like, you didn't just wake up one day and was like, yep, storyteller, designer, art director. I create websites and brands. There was a journey to get there, but damn, is Rachel good at creating brands. So she's going to be jamming with us today, and I'm super pumped about this. But tell us, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, that's the greatest question. And to be honest, I love talking about it because I don't get to that much. And it's so great to kind of share the beginning part of the journey. And really, me as well at that event, I was a baby. I didn't know one thing about entrepreneurship, sisterhood. I mean, it was a whole ripping off the Band-Aid moment for me in general, like just stepping into being my own boss and all the things. So I had a mentor that was actually helping me like create my own business at the time. She was Giada Ford, which is Marie Forleo's art director at the time. And now she actually owns Content Crop, which is an amazing social media platform service. And she was my inspiration. I mean, she really helped me kind of give me the confidence. I had gone to art school. I worked in the corporate world for many years, and that was just its own journey. And I'm really grateful for it, but I felt so burnt out. So I'm so grateful that I got to be in a room with all these other entrepreneur women. And it was like, I went there not thinking that I was going to walk away with any clients or business whatsoever. It was really just putting myself out there. And I had never done that. So it was wild. And I really I talk about this event being like the main one in my career because it launched me into not only surrounding myself with community, which I found to be the biggest piece that's, most entrepreneurs when they're getting started, it's hard to find. So I went to that event and I met you and I met so many other people who actually ended up turning into clients as well, like just organically. And it was just the most awesome, beautiful experience of my life.
Rich, I second that entirely. It was a catalyst. And I think back to who was in that room that day and how many relationships I still have.
Yeah.
And one of the beautiful things about social media and the modern day age that we live in is that I've been able to watch how people have grown and evolved and changed, and stepped more and more into being 100% themselves.
Yes.
And for me, one of the most beautiful parts of that is that for many of those people that were in the room over the years, you have helped them to take that 100% themselves and provide a visual demonstration by way of a brand.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
cool is that, everybody? Like, and again, you don't have to be a coach. You like don't even actually need to like have your own business to be a brand, because a brand is about our authentic self.
Exactly. It's about being who you really are and stepping into that. And not only just being who you are, but really sharing the pieces that you want people to perceive about you, or ways that you want to connect with them. I mean, these are really, when we were in that room, a lot of the tone was about connecting and just really being honest and sharing our true selves. And I actually feel like I learned so much during that experience, because just even in my own brand, learning that, I'm the face of my brand now, which I had never been ever before that. So, and that's always a huge part of it. A lot of the times people always ask the question, like, do I need to be the face of my brand, when I'm going into branding? And it's like, you don't have to, but a lot of us who are coaches or service providers or, whatever it is that you do in your business, a lot of the times it's the way we connect with people is that personalization and human connection. So we often step into that role as we are our brands.
Right. We are our brands, but like, how do we get comfortable with our own skin?
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge part, and like who we're talking to. How do we actually embody being our own brand? Like, what does that look like? What's that journey? Like, Rachel, give us the behind the scenes. Like, someone comes to you and they say, okay, like, want a great website. What journey do you take them on, from like the business that they're creating, why they're doing it, like who they're serving? Like,
Yes, it's a great question. So basically, from the beginning, you really want to start with brand clarity. That is kind of, I feel like I preach it. I like hit people over the head with brand clarity, but I'm okay with it, because without it, we really can't create the vision that is in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls. I think that as we dive deep into our desires, in meaning what we want to help people with, how we want people to feel when they interact with our brands, those are all the places that we start. So, we start with who's your ideal audience? What is your mission statement? How are you going to be speaking to your ideal audience? And what are you going to say? So those are things that I always say are just like the perfect place to start, is getting brand clarity, diving deep into what it is that you're creating and why, and then how you want people to feel when they interact with your brand.
Right. Well, and I like what you're saying, like what it is that you're creating and why. Right? Because if we don't have a why attached to it, and I know Simon Sinek is like famous for talking about that one simple word of why, but if we don't have that why attached to it, like, can you actually create an authentic brand?
Yeah. And I personally believe no. No, you can't. Because if we really don't know why we're creating something, or what is the purpose of it, and meaning like what impact do you want to make, and what are the goals associated with the brand, and when they are just about our own personal goals, I feel that we often fall short when we're trying to communicate with our audience, and obviously making sales. It's so much deeper than that. And when you start to really pull underneath the surface of like what it is that I want to be, like how I want people to feel when they interact with my brand, or how I want them to feel when they, get my email, or, go on my social media, those are all connected. And I think, a lot of the times people's perspective on this is really warped. I have people coming in, into my inbox at all different levels of their business, whether they've been in business 10 years, 3 years, 1 year. And the truth is they all struggle with the same, common thing, which is I want to be unique. I want people to understand me or feel me through this website. And I think that's like the biggest key, because a lot of the times we really don't understand that it's so much about what it is we want to create and the energy that's behind that.
Right. And it has to be about that energy, and it has to be about that place of who we're going to serve and how do we serve them. In our coach training program, I often talk to them, and actually this week we're going to be doing our module on ideal client. And which you could probably run that. It's the interesting part is talking to people from the perspective of seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Every ideal client, whether that ideal client is the ideal client for buying a fire alarm, right? They want to seek pleasure, the sense of safety, and they want to avoid pain, like the house burning down, right? And we have to be able to look through those lenses at who we're going to serve. But how do those lenses, like, how does it then help you to create and show up in the brand and create your offerings? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I often have people go through a process where they pull out their brand concepts. And to me, that means something, more in the lines of like how you want people to feel when they interact with your brand. It takes you right back to that same question. And we answer it by pulling out, 5, 6 words that really are, the core of what you want people to feel when they experience you or your brand. And then from there, we build out how we're going to help them feel that. So it's a combination, when it comes to branding, it's not just your website, it's not just your copy or your social media, it's the whole thing. It's all of those pieces put together that creates your full brand and even the energy behind it, as I mentioned before. So we start with brand concepts, we pull them out, and then we start building everything around them. So if you want people to feel empowered when they interact with your brand, well, let's get some photos of you in empowerment, or people that you work with, like showing you empower them. There's so many different ways that we can help recreate that, obviously through your copy, through the titles of your packages and offers. I mean, there's just so many different pieces when it comes to the brand. Obviously, I focus more on the visual end of that, and obviously, kind of the strategy behind the brand, but it's a lot of different elements that have to be touched on.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I know that you've created a course, and then the course that you've created, does it take people through like these questions? Because I'm with you as a person who knows nothing about or hadn't known anything about websites and such when when we first started our work together. I wouldn't be thinking that, oh, a website, yeah, I just need like some buttons and maybe some colors, like, oh, I like that color, like that would be the extent of my perspective when it would come to brand, to like developing brand. So, I know you've created this course. Does that walk them through that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's the reason why I created this course is really so that people can go through this process on their own before they go to build a website. Again, obviously in the last 9 years, I've learned so many things about, creating websites and working with people at all different levels and what they need. And again, everybody needs this, which is kind of like the one-on-one branding, like brand clarity, define your brand look and feel. We walk them through the photo shoot concepts, which is the same thing as what I just mentioned, the brand concepts. So we help you learn how to pull out those brand concepts and tell a visual story through your photographs. And I think, again, there's all these different pieces, how to share your brand with everybody as well. Once you create it, then what?
Right.
There's all these parts about your brand that a lot of the times people are like, oh, I need a website. And that's where the thought stops. And it's hilarious because it's like people really think a lot of the times that it's really just a creative piece, but there's so many different parts of building your brand. And I've seen so many people have such a difficult time with it that this course is like beyond overdue at this point. And I'm really excited because I know that it's going to help so many people really hone in. And I say this a lot, it's like before we create, we tune in. And that way we can work on the internal part of our brand and our business, and then we build out. And I love it because I feel like, you know, if you do any personal development work and whatnot, it's really the same types of concepts. You know, it's helping you work on the bones of your brand before you create the shiny, beautiful thing on the outside.
Right. And we'll have links to all those things in the show notes. So if you are listening to Rachel and you're saying like, oh my God, yes, like I completely need that. You'll be able to grab the link in the show notes. Rach, as you're talking, something came up for me, and I'm really curious because you have worked with so many people over the last, decade plus. And here's my question. Do you find that some people struggle in developing their brand, and there's a correlation with them struggling with being seen?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I've even been shocked in the process where it's like I have somebody who, you know, I would never in my life think that they had, you know, any insecurities. You know, we do this as humans. We put people on different pedestals in our own brains. We say they have it together. And, you know, as you and I were just talking about, you know, no one has it fully together, obviously. And a lot of the time, social media and people's websites, it paints a very perfect picture. And I think when people show up, you know, to work with me, a lot of the times they're actually shocked at how deep we're going, you know, how they've never even answered half of the questions that we're asking, whether it's, whatever the reason is, sometimes that happens. And if you're like, 5 years plus into your business and you don't have these core, kind of, I call them like the, basic 101 for your own brand. If you haven't done that work, when you go and do that website rebrand process, like a lot of stuff is going to come up because it's all, especially if you are your brand, it's complete visibility, and I've had clients say to me like, oh my God, do I really have to have all these photos of myself on my website? And I'm like, well, you don't, but it's going to be a huge disconnect because if somebody's hiring you and you're your brand and we're not showing you on the website, like what are we saying to them? And I think that's a really important thing to note. It's just a lot of the times, we're kind of in that space where it's like, oh my God, like why? And no, like your whole website doesn't have to be you. We don't have to have five pictures of you on every single page or any of those things. I always like to say it's actually great to have a lot of variety of photos when it comes to that, because it helps really deepen the experience when somebody's going through your brand. But yeah, I mean, it's really, it goes very up and down when it comes to where people are at. And it does have to do with a lot of the work that they've done around their own visibility.
Yeah. And I think you're right, Rach, like it creates connection. Because I mean, in hiring Rachel to be my website designer for my very, very first website, I had never had any sort of an online presence ever before that. And again, like this was 2013. So, I mean, I don't know. We had did we still have flip phones. I don't even know. Like it was just like, it was back in the day. But my point here is that when I went on Rachel's website, and here I am hiring a website designer. So I want to see a pretty website, but I'm hiring a website designer, they're behind the scenes. What does it matter if they have pictures of themselves? Seeing pictures of Rachel, I mean, and of course I met her that weekend, but I really connected and I felt so good. And when Rachel was walking me through the photos that I needed to create, they weren't inauthentic. Like I remember my first website had a picture of like me riding a bike. Well, yeah, because that's, I love riding bikes. I think one of your pictures was like you on rollerblades, like, because they're different versions, right, of who we are.
And it's such an amazing thing because a lot of the times people, and again, like I always try to ask, like, what are unique ways that we can show and help people understand who you really are? And a lot of the times people get very stuck around that. But the truth is, it could be any thing that's unique about you. And the truth is everything is unique about you because nobody knows you yet. So it's like, that's the most beautiful part about it. It's so personal. And, even if you and I took the same picture on the bike in the same location, it would feel different because we're different people. And I think that's the part, like a lot of the times in the branding world, I think, people are like copycats, there can be a lot of like talk about like, let's not copy people, but I always encourage people to look at, what other people have done, especially when we're talking photo shoots, because it's always unique. It's always going to be you doing, feeling, showing, and I think that is what makes a lot of the brands that I work on unique, is that we go kind of deep into the visual story part about what they actually want people to feel. And I remember specifically when I asked you, like, what do you do in your spare time that when you're not working? Like, let's show people that side of you. And I think, of course, people are going to connect with you because other people love that about, just like, the fun side of you and all those pieces that you bring into your business.
Right. It's interesting because it's about being authentic. So if you think, let's just say you're an accountant and you have to have a website, right? So, okay, I'm building a website, but you think that people are going to hire you if you wear a suit, but you have to literally go out and buy a suit because you don't own one, because it's actually not you, right? Like that's not how we're going about building a brand here. We're not popping on pearls and like, do one of those arm crossed poses with a serious face because you want people to take you seriously, if that's not you. And in fact, you love accounting and doing the numbers and you want to do it barefoot. You want to do it with a cup of coffee and you've got a top knot on but you're crushing it. Like that's what people want to see. They want to see like that real you. And so I'm pumped about the Soul Brand course. I think that that's going to be great for people to go through and experience. Rach, you brought something else up, and I do want to ask you as an expert the difference between getting inspiration, right, and the copycat stuff. Because I feel like we could talk a while about copycat stuff and how triggering that can be, but I'm so curious, like from your expert opinion, like let's talk about the difference between the inspiration versus copycat.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And it's something that I've thought a lot about, especially because, when people come to me, they often say, here's the brand that I love. Here are brands that I love. I love this site. I love what they do here. And I think that's great. It's inspiration. But I also like to challenge everyone that comes in my door. And sometimes people are sending me sites that are like 6 years old. And you say to yourself, like, that's amazing. That brand actually did a great job. But also, we're going to start to question, like, is this how we should be doing things anymore? And so I always say to people, like, it's cool to like, whatever it is that you like, that you're sharing with the people that are helping you build your brand. But let's make sure that we're also asking the right questions on, like, how does this relate to my own brand? Is this an example that we should be looking at? And the truth is, I actually tell a lot of my clients not to look out. Because what happens is it's a normal, it's the word normal. It's like a normal human thing to like, you see something and you think, oh my God, I should be doing that.
Right.
I should be having this on my website. Why does everybody have an opt-in bar at the top of their website? Why does everybody have, there's lots of things on websites that everybody does have. And so I think this is the part where it's like, okay, like nobody's going to be like, Bailey, you're such a copycat for putting your opt-in at the top of the site, just like mine. No, like that's a marketing, tactic that's proven to work. So, in my mind, like not copycat, but if somebody has like a specific type of photo that they've taken that's like really unique and they choose all the colors and then you go and you do the exact same thing and the exact same location, like to me, that's, not being truly you. Because chances are, and I mean, like, I don't really like to point it out in general. Like, again, if you want to just go impersonate another human, I'm cool with that in all your formats. But I just feel like in general, like most of the people that I'm working with are tuning much deeper than that. And they they want to be unique, and meaning they
Right.
want to create their own experience. They have a mission, they have a purpose, and they have an impact. And I feel like when you're creating from that place, like even if you were to kind of do something that another person does on their in their brand and on their website, it will never feel like copycat, especially when you're being authentic. So that's kind of my take on it for the most part. And specifically with design, like, and the visual end of it, I think like websites are building blocks. So sometimes we take pieces of other designs and we put it into our designs, and like just from a structure layout standpoint, as opposed to like actually copying a design of something. So there's a really big difference.
Right.
Like you said, the inspiration versus like, this is a spitting image of the same exact thing.
Right. And I think it goes back to being authentically you. It's
Yeah.
not, I think if we picked someone else's site and we want those exact colors and the exact layout, and we're just going to put our pictures or our name or whatever on it, and it's not from that place of inspiration, but instead, sometimes I think that's also hiding, right?
Yeah.
Just copy
It is.
this for me, and I don't actually have to do the work of knowing who I am.
Yeah. And I think the truth is, when that does happen, I can say in like all of my years of business at this point, I've probably only had to say one time, like, I'm not going to create a site that's exactly like this person's, And so I think that's pretty good that, only one time. And even so, like, it was well received, because I think sometimes you don't even realize that you are, falling into that, because it's so easy just to be like, I like this so much though, and it's like, it's okay. We can recreate something similar, but it's you. And I think that's the part, like, I help empower you to be you. And people really do find a lot of like, there's a lot of, what's the word, calm in that, like you feel a sense of peace, because there's not a lot of places in the world where I think you feel safe to just like, we're being really vulnerable when we create brands. So I've tried to really create almost a very safe space for all of our insecurities to show up, but then also help you work through them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I remember, oh gosh, in the very beginning, like it was exciting to build the website, and it was exciting to do the photo shoot. And as Rachel's all putting it together, like, oh, these are the colors and this is what we're going to do. And it was all so exciting. And then, if I'm correct, I think it was like one of the fonts, maybe like the cursive font that we were going to use, and just perseverating over if I had the right cursive font. And I looked up all these fonts and like, okay, this is Rachel as the expert, like sent this over to me. Hey, here's the font that matches like everything we're doing here. And believe me, guys, we still went with the one that she had originally recommended, but it was this exhaustive search. I wanted to make sure I got it right. It had nothing to do with the font whatsoever. It was that place of like, I'm doing a big thing and I want to get the whole thing right. And I'm just putting all my stress into this one little font. But we do that sometimes.
yeah, we do. And it happens in many different levels of like where that piece shows up, because I feel like I have this show up sometimes where people are like, I want this to be right, and it's like, okay, I hear you. I want it to be right too, but we also don't want to spend, a whole year trying to make it right.
Right.
Especially when it's your website, and I think like, this is something I always like to stress, and you and I have had this conversation multiple times at this point. Like, websites are a changing, evolutionary thing. They are not static. They do not stand still. They change as you change. And that is a hard concept for a lot of people to grasp, especially when you're, investing at certain financial levels when it comes to creating your brand, because I've had a lot of people be like, wait, what? I have to redo this in a few years from now? Like, I'm not doing that. Like,
Right.
and I get it, because I go through it with my own brand. It's like, it has to change, and because you're changing. And I think like a lot of the times we're so like, but no, I want this to stay the same. And, I actually always tell this awesome story about, when Marie Forleo updated her website in, I don't know what year it was the most recent update. people were like outraged. They were so angry, like, this is not the Marie, this is not the site that like I, envision Marie as. And like Giada Ford was like, it blew everybody's mind in the creative department because they all loved the brand. It was so great, but it took so many people a long time to adjust to it. I think we as humans, like, we want it, change is something we resist. So when it comes to your website, it's like the best reminder ever, because as you start that process, a lot of the times we forget that this is going to change again at some point.
Oh, I remember Rachel dropping that science on me as we're like painstakingly doing all the details of like, I mean, you just put so much love into it. And she said, it's like, hey, it's okay. Like, this is going to be what it'll be for right now. And then your website will change, like you will change. And, later on we evolved and we became MindRise and a whole brand. And of course that had a completely different look and feel. But it was Rachel again gave me a permission slip, and that permission slip was, this will change, you will grow, like, and that's okay. Which is also really nice, because then you don't have to paint yourself into a corner of, well, this is what I created the website for, like, this is who I need to be. Like, you can evolve. That's really nice.
It is, yeah, it is. And I go through it with my own, everyone goes through it. So it's like, this whole like, will they always have a perfect brand? Like, well, I can promise you, either they have a team that's helping them make it so perfect,
right,
or they're spending the time that goes into that, consistency, and working on updating your photos every quarter, or whatever it looks like for your business. But hopefully, when you go to build your brands, you have somebody supporting you through it, because it can be a really challenging process to go through on your own. And I mean, I've seen it done well, and I've seen it the other side, where it's like, I've tried this and it's just not working. And so I'm hopeful that people will keep creating things that support others through those processes, because no one should feel that way at this point.
Right. No, you shouldn't feel that way. And so your work started off in website and brand development. You have your course as well. And so I love that you saw a need in the market where people wanted to create a website, and you've created soul themes as a way to address that. So walk us through what soul themes are. And we're going to, again, guys, we're going to put all the links to all the things so you can like check it out for a visual in the show notes. But talk to us about soul themes. Where was that born from? Because in some ways it's like you're working yourself out of a job here, kid, creating these like amazing themes, and they're gorgeous. And I'm like, so talk us through, like, how did that come to be into your awareness that, and you were called to create this, and who is it for?
Yeah, so that's awesome. I think, I've been working one-on-one in my business for basically 9 years. And at some point I was like, you know what, I really want to help more people. And I know I'm only one person. And as I've been expanding my team, I'm seeing, okay, I could still only help a certain amount of people that I would like to. And I was like super against themes early on, because I was like all about custom. I was like custom this and custom that. But as I also grew and learned, I was like, wow, I can't believe how many amazing theme websites there are that are beautiful and wonderful and really functional for, like meeting people with where they're at. And so I really started realizing, when people invest at the custom level, they actually have to be at a certain place in their business for it really to make sense. So that's where Soul Themes started to be born, because I was like, wait, I could design a theme that, has the pieces that I would really want to be in this website, that's similar to my custom sites. So what we did is we designed 4 different themes that are based off of certain, my ideal clients, basically, like coaches, fitness professionals, service providers, speakers, authors. And we created a few different themes to really be based off of their kind of ideal user experience. And so Soul Themes is a done for you package. So one of my biggest bones that I had with with themes was that when you buy a theme and you download it and you upload it, then you're like, oh my God, now what? A lot of the times you can't make it look like the demo. You're spending hours. And so I really didn't want that for, people that were going to be buying themes through me. So we created a done for you package. It's like a 14-day experience. So you basically could get your site up and out there into the world. And it's really like half the price of what my custom sites are. And I'm really excited about that because I feel like I've been able to really support so many early stage entrepreneurs in their with their websites, get a brand up and out there. And like a lot of the times that's what they need because they need the confidence. So when you're getting started to create your brand and you don't like what you have, you're not going to share it. You don't want to show anyone your website. You have like website shame. And I feel like I'm happy to help people not have that. And also, really give them a website that has the user experience that I build into all the custom sites that I work on. So I wouldn't even say it's only for beginners. It's, it really is, if you feel called to having that, it's a, short, easy package that obviously you have to have certain assets for your brand, but we do help you with kind of like, your visual identity and the basics for your brand to just get you started. And then we help you launch the site. So it's so exciting.
I love it. And we're jamming about this. And I know for a lot of you guys, you are listening. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play. But since we're jamming about this, go over. And if you want to see what we're talking about, go over to YouTube and go check out the podcast on the YouTube. Also, again, we're going to put all the links in. But while we're doing this, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what on earth Rachel's talking about. So here's Soul Themes. There's beautiful Rachel. And again, if you're listening to the podcast, but one of the things that just go over to the YouTube, but one of the things that Rachel is talking about is the different themes that they have. And those themes, for you came from that creative space of like, this is who I serve. And this is the user experience that their clientele will need.
Exactly. And a lot of, it's based off of a lot of the different clients that I've worked with and, obviously my adult clients. So I really wanted to create solutions, and actually we are going to be launching a new shop theme, which I'm so excited about. It will be Shopify based. So that will be a whole new way that we can support people. And it's just, we'll be continuing to update this as time goes on, obviously. And it's really fun. I love the clients that I've worked with on these sites. They are all badass and great. And just overall, it's been like one of the most awesome things that I've gotten to work on, since the beginning.
And Rach, with Soul Themes, like, and as for anybody who is checking out the YouTube, and you can see I'm sharing my screen right now. So it's both for desktop as well as mobile, right? So it's mobile responsive. I know I'm not always hip with the lingo, but what about the integrations? So like over here on Everly, just, and I imagine that they all have this, but there's an opt-in right there with the theme. Are like, is it WordPress?
So they're all WordPress websites right now. That's obviously like my platform of choice. And as I mentioned, the new shop theme would actually be Shopify. And we definitely support with basically being able to integrate your opt-ins, newsletters, just the basics that you would need. And the cool part is, since they are WordPress, it's like after the project's over, this site can grow with you. It's not just like a lot of the times you buy a theme and it's like, you don't know how to use all the other stuff. Like, this is really like they're built custom on the back end, and meaning like you're able to change everything, you have editability, you're able to update things as time goes on. And that's, again, was one of the biggest goals, is that I wanted to really make sure that people had the abilities to update and change things. Because again, like, we know how busy you entrepreneurs are, and you have to be able to change that banner, change the colors when you need to, certain things like that. So definitely have capabilities to edit things.
Right. And as Rachel's talking, I'm just going through one of the themes in particular. But I mean, how good would it feel? And that's what it's about, that place of confidence when it's like you want to put yourself out in the world and like here, like, do you like this theme? Cool. It could be yours. And it will be with the custom colors that are yours and your logo and your content. And I think that there's definitely something to be said from being able to not have the creation of your brand and your website holding you back from doing your big thing and putting yourself out there. Let's stop my share. I'll just like get real into it and you guys will just be looking at my
Totally.
computer face. So just be like,
Yeah.
um, but Rach, I think this is awesome. And I think it's a great opportunity for people to not only be able to work with you, but they're not reinventing the wheel. There's some options and some inspiration for them already.
Yeah. And I mean, the other cool part is, to be honest, I'm still part of that process. I don't know if I will be forever,
Right.
but I am still doing I do the calls with you. I'm working with you on your brand in that experience still. So it's super awesome.
Yeah. And I have to say, like working with Rachel it's great because she just doesn't only speak like website, right? It's like it's talking to your soul, right? And who you are and what it really means to have a brand that's 100% you. So I love this conversation because I think that yes, brand is about website, but brand is about how we show up in the world. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be perfect and doesn't have to be all figured out. And clearly we're always still evolving and growing, but it has
exactly.
to be you.
It does. And I think that's just the best thing that you can do when you're in this. Just keep showing up and taking, as many steps as you can forward. Like, as I always mention, like, it's never going to be perfect,
Right.
especially when it comes to your website. So it's like, get comfortable with putting it out there, in the format that it is, one that helps you feel confident. So
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, Rach. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to put all of Rachel's links in our show notes. But in the meantime, Rach, where can they find you? Where can they hang out? Where are you hanging out on the interwebs? Give them the scoop.
yeah, definitely on Instagram. You can find me just at Rachel Pesso on Instagram. That's where I'm spending most of my time at this point. It's my preferred platform. And yeah, that's the spot.
Awesome. So cool. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And yeah, go forth, everyone. And whether it's a website that you create or just the embodiment of your brand, go forth and be 100% you.